Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating mechanism sitting right at the intersection of AI and data ownership. We're looking at the Codatta royalty engine. Now, if you follow the AI space, you know one of the biggest unresolved tensions right now is figuring out how the people who actually supply the data for these models get compensated fairly and transparently. Usually, this whole process happens in a complete black box, right? Data goes in, models come out, and payouts, they're a total mystery. Well, Codatta approaches this entirely differently. They've essentially built a glass box. So in this explainer, we're going to look closely at how this deterministic data payout architecture takes complex AI data usage and turns it into clear, traceable, and entirely predictable payouts. And that brings us to the core question we're tackling today. How exactly do revenue and usage turn into exact, predictable payouts? I mean, it's easy to say you want to pay data contributors fairly, but it is incredibly complex to actually engineer a system that does it without relying on, manual spreadsheets or just arbitrary guesses. So we're stepping right up to the machine today to answer this exact question. We're going to literally watch the engine turn on, look at the inputs, do the math, and see the final outputs that make this whole ecosystem actually work. Now, the absolutely crucial point here is this underlying golden formula. It's the absolute foundation of the royalty engine. The goal, in one sentence, is this: the same events, plus the same ownership, plus the same valuation configuration must equal the exact same payout result on replay. This is what we actually mean when we say deterministic. It means there is zero guesswork, none. If you take the data of what was used, who owned it, and how much it was worth, and you hit that replay button 1,000 times, you are going to get the exact same deterministic payout result every single time. And that is what makes the entire payout structure fully auditable and, more importantly, explainable. All right, section 1, the 4 engine inputs. Let's look at the raw materials going in to fuel this machine. So, the royalty engine combines 4 very precise versioned inputs to figure things out. First up, we have usage events. Think of this as the metering. It's a signed record penning down exactly who accessed which dataset, how much they used, like the exact number of rows or gigabytes, and the exact timestamp. Second is the valuation config. This is basically the governed pricing model. It dictates how access is weighted based on things like quality, information richness, demand, or even how recent the data is. Third, we've got the attribution snapshot. Because data ownership changes hands, right? So the engine looks at the exact ownership fractions for that specific data set at the exact millisecond the event occurred. And finally, number 4, the revenue account. This is the gross revenue controlled by the AI builder where the money actually lands to fund these payouts. These 4 versioned inputs are exactly what the engine relies on to compute what was used, what it costs, and who owned it at that precise moment. Moving on to section 2, computing the line items. Okay, let's actually turn the engine on and walk through a conceptual example to see this math in action. Imagine a conceptual example where an AI model makes requests to a specific dataset. Let's say 1,000 AI requests hit the system, and based on that valuation config we just talked about, it's priced at a fraction of a cent per request. Specifically, let's say $0.002. You multiply that out, and those 1,000 requests are generating exactly $2 of gross usage revenue. Now, I know $2 sounds like a drop in the bucket right now, but remember, in AI, we are often dealing with millions or billions of requests, so this micro-accounting has to be absolutely flawless. So we have our $2, but before we just hand that money directly over to the owners, the engine applies a bit of protective logic. Step 1 is, of course, our starting gross of $2. Step 2, the engine automatically quarantines a governed reserve rate. In this case, let's say it's 5%, just for potential disputes. That holds back 10 cents. This just ensures that if there's a problem later on, we actually have the funds available to correct it. Step 3, after that holdback, we are left with a net distributable amount of $1.90. And this right here is the actual pie that is about to be sliced up. From there, the engine references the rules and divides that net amount across governed policy bands. So here, the protocol takes 15%, the AI builder or consumer margin takes 15%, and the schema or workflow developer gets 10%. But definitely notice that massive 60% slice flowing directly into the knowledge contributors pool. This is huge because it ensures that the primary value is flowing straight back to the entities that actually provided the raw intelligence the AI is using. Now, what's really interesting here is when we zoom directly into that 60% knowledge pool to see real humans getting paid. Let's pretend this was a medical dataset. The engine opens up that attribution snapshot we mentioned earlier, and it sees that at the exact moment of usage, the ownership was split like this. The person who labeled the data, Dr. Lin, gets 50% of this specific pool. The patient who provided the original sample gets 30%, and the validators or backers who verified the data receive 20%. The engine perfectly computes these exact fractions down to the fraction of a cent based on real, verifiable ownership. That brings us to Section 3, Settlements and Disputes. We've seen how the money is mathematically split, but let's cool the engine down for a second and see what happens when things don't go exactly according to plan. So the engine is designed for absolute flexibility in settlements. Owners receive their payouts on predictable calendar schedules like weekly, or when certain financial thresholds are met. And the cool part, it's not locked into a single currency. It supports multi-asset payouts, whether you want stablecoins or protocol tokens like X and Y. But what's really impressive is the cross-chain capability. If owners exist on totally different blockchain networks, the engine automatically queues up a bridge or swap step to get them their funds. No manual conversions required at all. Plus, every single payout comes with transparent receipts containing event IDs, valuation versions, and attribution hashes, meaning you get a full, undeniable audit trail for every single cent. But you're probably wondering, what about disputes? Remember those holdbacks we talked about earlier? If an issue pops up with the data's validity, those reserves secure the funds while the dispute window is open. And because every single input is versioned, the events, the valuation, the ownership, resolving a dispute is mathematically super clean. If there is a dispute or an amendment, the engine simply recomputes the affected line items using the updated inputs, and then just releases or reallocates the funds. Replays produce identical results. Or if inputs change due to a dispute, it logs the correction totally transparently. There is absolutely no messy, manual unwinding of payments here. All right, Section 4, Train, Now Pay Later. Let's pivot and see how this creates viable, flexible payment structures for the AI developers themselves. A massive feature enabled by this architecture is the Train Now Pay Later Agreement, or TNPL. AI builders often need vast amounts of data way before they have a product that's actually generating revenue, right? Well, with TNPL, builders access the data right away on day one. As they use it, those usage events accrue as deferred obligations, fully tracked by the engine in the background. Then, let's say in month 2, when their AI product starts generating real revenue and the money finally lands in their revenue account, the engine flawlessly wakes up and settles all those accrued obligations automatically. It perfectly bridges the gap between the need for immediate data access and the reality of delayed revenue streams. It's a real game changer. And finally, Section 5, the ironclad invariance. To wrap up our tour of the royalty engine, we really need to establish the core rules that must absolutely always hold true, no matter how much the system scales. These 4 invariants are literally the bedrock of the engine's integrity. First up, determinism, like we've discussed. Replayability absolutely guarantees identical results. Second is traceability. Every single dollar can be linked back through the dataset versions directly to the actual contributors. Third is minimal disclosure. While the payout amounts and the math are entirely public for auditing, any sensitive data artifacts themselves stay strictly encrypted. And fourth, no retroactive edits. Past statements remain valid forever. If a correction is needed, you don't just go in and erase the past. It requires a brand new logged recomputation with a stated reason. So these 4 invariants guarantee that no matter what, every dollar is traceable right back to the contributors without any shady retroactive edits, ensuring absolute transparency. So, as data ownership in the age of generative models becomes infinitely more complex, it really leaves us wondering about the broader implications of what we've just seen. If we can truly replace black box data scraping with a glass box, mathematically sound payout architecture, how will this level of absolute mathematical determinism change the way we trust the broader AI economy? It certainly seems like this kind of explainable, deterministic engine isn't just some nice feature to have. It's very likely going to become the ultimate foundation of trust required for the entire future of AI. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep asking the right questions.